Spanking, tried spanking, was not good at that either. Too tentative with the spanking, by all accounts. My wife said that I spanked like I was reassuring a nervous racehorse. We shouldn't have done the spanking. I regret the spanking. We shouldn't have done it. We're too deep into the relationship to be spanking each other. My advice, right, you're going to spank each other, do it in the first 6 months of getting together. Don't let 10 years of resentment build up before you bring that into the equation. I was spanked with a closed fist one evening. Does that sound right to you? Spanked on the jaw and both eye sockets. I don't think that sounds right to me.
But no, because I've started catching the train again. Now, there's this one guy, he's on every train. I don't want to say exactly what this dude looks like, but I describe his appearance as crime adjacent. Everybody got him? You've seen him often chewing, never gum? So this guy is on every train, right? He's on every train, does the same move on every train. When the train gets to a platform, the doors will open, the crime adjacent guy leans out the doors of the train, looking very intently up and down the platform. I don't know what he's looking for. I've never seen him find it. And then when the doors close, he's like, oh, it's the train. He gets back on the train, right? That's what happens for the crime-adjacent guy. Every single platform I've ever seen him at. And I always thought it's because he was looking for a ticket inspector, which I thought was a shit strategy, because if I was a ticket inspector and I saw a crime-adjacent person, that's probably where I'd start inspecting. And I don't even have formal ticket inspector training, which I can only assume is extensive. So that's what I always thought. And then I got COVID last Christmas, like everybody, and I was in one of those in-person PCR testing queues, and there was a crime-adjacent person in front of me in the queue. And he did the exact same move in the COVID queue. We're in the COVID queue. The queue would take a few steps forward. The queue would stop. The crime-adjacent guy steps out of the queue, looks up and down the queue, gets back in the queue. And I was like, dude, we don't need a ticket for this. It's like, this isn't American healthcare, it's included, right? Like, it's fine. And that's when I realized that guy's not looking for a ticket inspector. What he's doing is looking for his biological father. That's why he writes his name on the train. Just in case his dad comes looking for him. On the Campbelltown line, right?
Together, guys, we're in very divided times, but food, I feel like, is the answer. You know, think about the first wave of immigrants. The Italians, they copped a lot of racial hate, but, you know, they bought pizza, pasta, people sort of accepted them, yeah. Chinese people, sweet and sour pork, Indian people, buttered chicken. Like, all I'm trying to say is stop hating and just wait and see what food transgender people make, because no, they haven't had their chance yet to make the food, you know, and like that's the only way I've seen it work in this country. I wish it wasn't like that. Like my granddad came back from World War II, a lot of anti-Japanese hate, you know, but I took him to sushi. It was like, you know what, these guys are all right. I took him to one of those sushi you know, the trains. He was like, we used to have to derail these. Like he was going a bit then. Stop, Granddad, they're trying to resupply. It's not, it's teriyaki. Like it was a, stop. But you know, I work like in a very progressive space doing stand-up, but I used to work as a labourer on a construction site. Yeah. Not as progressive. The amount of like homophobic jokes and sexism and shit that goes into like building a building, like fucking, we shouldn't be in here, you know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, we need to cancel buildings, because like some of the shit that was said, can you imagine some of the shit that was being said when this was being put up? Can't you lift that, Trevor, you little bitch? Where's your fucking dress? And you're comfortable sitting in this, like, in this environment of hate? Like, my foreman used to walk in and go, morning, ladies, and he'd flick your balls like that. And they built the Gallery of Modern Art. That's a space I worked on, like helping with the flooring of the Gallery of Modern Art. And I've been back since on that same floor during a cabaret festival. And there was all these naked men in body paint standing there with the light shining on them, posing in this performance art piece. But in that same spot, Trevor called me a gay cunt for drinking a Sprite Zero, like in the same... And yeah, I got bullied, okay? I'm one of those guys. I got bullied. I'm one of those guys, you know, I went to the boss. Yeah. I was like, Dad. I said, they're bullying me, Daddy. Fire these motherfuckers. And he did, and I got promoted. It's,
So a couple of years ago, it was dishwasher stacking videos. All night. There are videos on YouTube and Instagram of people stacking dishes in dishwashers, and I would watch them for hours. Hours, swiping one after the other, all frigging night. And then I upgraded to hoof cleaning videos. I don't know, okay, yes. It's horse and cow hooves being cleaned. And I have dodged conversations, I have not read books, I have lost sleep, lying on my side, 2 a.m. with a pillow, just broom. Next. You won't believe. I will believe. Show me. Next. Maybe we don't need writers. I don't know. I mean, I'm just watching fucking hoof clean. The people, they're working too hard on Yellowstone. They could just show the hoofs being cleaned. Why are they bothering paying all these actors? You could just laugh for previously on Yellowstone. There you go. Shh. Next week on Yellowstone. Shh. Then I discovered house cleaning videos. There's a woman, and she goes to like hoarder houses, and she power cleans it, and again, hours swiping over and over and over again. But then I finally reached my final form. Yard cleaning videos. Yard care and yard cleaning video. There's a guy, he has fans, obviously. He's on YouTube, and he goes into sketchy neighborhoods, and he finds abandoned houses, and he swoops in, and he tames that lawn, and it is my porn. I can't, you get that edger and you show that curb. You make that curb street legal, goddammit. You get around that mailbox and give it a Brazilian. When he finds a hidden walkway, that's like a money shot for me. I'm just like, oh my God, that is a brick breezeway. Give me some tissues and get out.
I come from Yorkshire. I come from a little town called Goole. Yeah, if you don't know Goole, it's just a stone's throw away from York if you throw that stone onto a 2-hour train journey. But it's a weird town with weird people. I'll give you some of my favourite examples. So I was back in Goole recently. I saw a man on a mobility scooter just driving along. A kid threw an egg at him. Then the man stood up off the mobility scooter. He ran after the kid and punched him in the face. Yeah. That made me proud to come from Goole. One of the few towns where you get to see benefit fraud live. I saw a man in Goole. He's walking down the street very confidently wearing 3 bum bags. 3 full bum bags. I can't imagine being in a situation where I filled 1 bum bag and I'm not looking down at the rest of my stuff thinking, this is clearly a rucksack situation. No, not this man. He's straight in the bum bag cupboard. He's not stopping till he's finished. Moving house, 60 bum bags wrapped around him. But Goole is dead now. There's nothing going on in the high street. It's basically betting shops, tanning salons, and in one case, a bizarre amalgamation of the two. And my mum and dad, they'll send me little newspaper articles from Goole just to let me know what's going on in the town. Genuine headline, Ghoul gets new vending machine. That's in the paper, that's news. There's a vending machine in town. The town's rejoicing. There's euphoria all over the place. The most humiliating aspect of that story, that vending machine was opened by the mayor. That is sad for the town. It was someone's job to wrap a big ribbon around a vending machine. He's cut it with a huge pair of scissors. He had his picture taken with the vending machine. One of the weirdest images I've seen in my life. Because you're thinking, what poses are you doing for a vending machine? I reckon you can go stood next to the vending machine. You can maybe lean up against it, keep it casual. Ghoultown Mayor went with a third option, which is to attempt to put your arm around it as if it were another person.
Glad we're eating out again. I've had some great exchanges with waiters and waitresses over the years. There's an actual exchange I had with a waiter at an Italian restaurant in New York City not too long ago. Hi, is it possible to get a decaf espresso? You're the worst. Okay. I don't mean to be all lawyerly, but that was a yes or no question. But if you want to go with you're the worst, that works fine. Anyway, give me a decaf espresso with a big spoon of ketchup in it. Now I'm really bad. I was in a diner in Oklahoma. I ordered a salad, and she goes, what kind of dressing? I said, Italian. She leaned in and whispered something to me, but I didn't understand her. I go, what's that? She goes like, it's not good. What's not good? The Italian dressing. It's not good. It's not good. What's not good about it? It's not that tangy. Maybe you and I have different standards for tangy. Which dressing should I get? I'd go with Thousand Island. I don't like Thousand Island. I'll have the Italian. Are you sure it's not good? What part of it's not good, don't you understand? We'll end that one right there.
My psychiatrist said that anxiety can lead to depression. I wish it would hurry up. Anxiety's way worse. It's like a sushi train, just different dishes every day. Sashimi betrayal, teriyaki brain cancer. Me so scared. And you're just up 3 in the morning texting all your friends, we cool, just... Depression's way better. You're in your pyjamas, drinking custard out of the box in a Xanax haze. It's relaxing. No wonder people slit their wrists in a bubble bath. They're just like, let's send this to the next level, brother. Let's fucking send it. If it's so bad, why'd the Japanese name a forest after it? Usually my carer's tasing me by now. She's doing karaoke, the bitch. But that's her choice. She was asking if I wanted to go to an escape room. I'm like, no, I can just eat buffalo wings without a napkin and try and turn a doorknob. I was one of those leash kids. You remember that? It doesn't affect you, hey? It doesn't affect... 61. Have you noticed the more genetic problems a dog has, the fancier it is? Like, if it's got breathing problems, the owner went to a private school. I think because it's in bad taste to have a Ferrari now, you just got to be like, yeah, I can afford to keep a Pomeranian bulldog on dialysis, I'm killing it. I got a litter of asthmatic pugs at home. Yeah, I got a labradoodle on enough Prozac to save Anthony Bourdain. Do you think when aliens come and take over, they'll do the same? They'll be like, fuck Chris Hemsworth, I want the guy with the sleep apnea mask. See that guy in the mobility scooter with all the flags of the UN on it? That's mine, Trevor. He's a rescue. I don't even need to pick up his shit because he's got a colostomy bag, so it's a 2-for-1 meal deal. But I'm not doing well, folks, I'll tell you that much. I just got banned from Airbnb for renovating, and I tried to use Afterpay at a brothel, and it just doesn't...
I don't even know how I got pillows. Nobody remembers, especially dudes. You don't remember when you bought pillows. I moved to Los Angeles in 2003 with 1 pillow. Eventually, I had 5 pillows. At 1.7, then down to 3. No idea, it's just like living in a hostel. Something you get friends, come and go. And I unsheathed what I assumed to be a pillow one day in the daylight, and what I extracted from that pillowcase, it had the same just texture and patina as a Wild West wanted poster. It was just, it was gold and slick. The edges were crumbly and curled. One side was burnt. How did that even happen? It looked like a map to the New World. That's what it looked like. It looked like, clearly, like whatever fluids come out of my face at night the liquid had just expanded and then create rudimentary coastlines of the Americas over here. You could tell this is how they went from the Mediterranean to here. This is where the old gays went looking for spices back in the day. That's how we got this. That's what happened when you were gay back in the day, and you couldn't tell people in the 1300s in Europe that you're gay. You just like, me and the boys were going on a cruise, and that's how you had to be gay. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're looking for cinnamon. That's gay. That's super gay. But that's what they had to do, so thank them for that. You thank them for the spices. This part of the pillow just says, "Here be monsters." That's all it says there. Just browns and yellows and different, and whatever does that to the pillow comes out of my head. It comes out of my head at night when you don't know what's happening. Your unconscious being protects you of the horrors of your physical realm at that point. We all think like, oh, I snore, but probably cute like. Probably whimpers and wheezes. Probably like a new little kitten. No, you snore like a dragon with no lower jaw. That's how you snore. And you emit fluid like a chocolate fountain filled with mucus. That's how we all sleep. Just... You snore like a fire plug filled with pudding. That's how you snore. And you think you can forget until you look at your pillow, which is now just a sponge that collects the memories of your nightmares. Just a document of your savagery. So anyway, I don't look at the pillows in the hotel.
I was talking to my sister about work, right? And she was telling me about her job. She works like 9 to 5, 5 days a week, support her family. It's beautiful. I'm tearing up thinking about it now. We were talking about her work for a bit, then we started talking about my job, and you've seen most of my work day, and by the time the show ends, you'd have seen all of it. You know what I mean? This is about halfway through, like, this is my 1 p.m. I'm choosing not to take a lunch break. I'll work through anything, you know? I got COVID right now. But we were talking about our work, and I think, like, she knew that this is what I do for work, but I think she, like, it's the first time she realised that this is all I do. It really sunk in for her. She's like, she had this realisation. She's like, hold on. People just come see you do your job in their spare time. And that really sunk in for her. She's like, I could watch you do your entire job in my spare time. And when she said that, like, that hit me. I was like, I could watch you do your job in my spare time. I got so much spare time. I don't know what to do with it, you know? Then she started calling me lazy. She's like, oh, your job's so lazy, it's stupid. I think that's unfair. Because Usain Bolt, he goes to work, he's clocking off in 10 seconds. You know?
But my dad decided that when I was 5 years old, he just decreed like a drunk king, the boy is old enough to fly on the aeroplane by himself. And so I started flying by myself at age 5. And in case you've never done that, here's how it goes. Your mom drops you off at the airport and then drives away. And then a flight attendant who is psyched to, in addition to doing her weird job that's midway between being a cocktail waitress and a first responder, now also has to babysit a 5-year-old? And the very first thing they do is they give you a sticker. It says unaccompanied minor, just to make sure everybody at the airport knows you're there for the taking. Just like a little silver platter for pedophiles. Like, this one's alone, boys. This is Kurt, he's 5, he loves He-Man and sharks and keeping secrets. And I was like, there's no way they still do that. That was just something they did in the 80s. No, they still do it. I was recently in Montreal airport. I saw a little girl, she must have been 10 years old. She had the unaccompanied minor sticker on, but then she was also wearing a t-shirt, and I am assuming that her parents do not speak English because the t-shirt just said, white wine all the time. Which, combined with the unaccompanied minor sticker, not a good look for the parents.
So I'm actually really into fashion, actually. Tragically, I'm really into vintage clothing. I say tragically because at my age, when I wear vintage clothing, it looks like I'm just still wearing it from when it came out, you know? I think the idea of vintage clothing is to wear stuff that you weren't around to wear at the time. So I'd have to go back to Victorian frock coats or Second World War fighter pilot outfits, you know? But if I ever had my own celebrity fashion line, I'd call it the Jeff Innocent Retired Cockney Criminal Leisure Wear Collection. And I'd be aiming it at the man who's given up doing all his major crimes, but typically he's still hanging around with the wrong sort of people, so it could kick off at a moment's notice, and he might have to have it on his toes. And I think this ensemble has got that versatility, really. You know, I did on one hand for meeting someone who's just been released from Nick, but equally demanding money with fucking menaces. It's a one outfit for all occasions. But you've got to have names for outfits. If you go on fashion websites, you might have noticed what they do. They sometimes give outfits little lifestyle names so that you as a consumer, you buy into it subconsciously. There might be an outfit there called Hipster Dude or City Chick. You got the idea. So the name I go with for this look, tell me what you think, Racist Grandad. And if you're from Newham or Essex, I'm sure you're familiar. It's the white working class racist Grandad. That's the look I'm going for. He lives on the estate, but his daughter has just got pregnant by her black boyfriend, so all gone very wrong for that man. He's kicked her out the house. You know what these people are like. But bear with me on this, because potentially this has still got a happy ending, because he is what I call a redeemable racist. There's still hope for this man. And this is how multiculturalism works, in case there's any northerners in the audience. I know you're in here. There's a faint whiff of tripe in the air. It's a dead giveaway. And this is how it works. 9 months later, when the daughter comes back with this lovely little baby, now the racist granddad goes through a beautiful metamorphosis, falls in love with the child. They become inseparable. It's a beautiful love story brought about by multiculturalism. It's only a start, you know, this sort of stuff's gradual. He's still racist about every other fucker. Yeah? But not my fucking brown grandchild, all right? So that's the look I think I've successfully achieved this evening. For the NHS. Can I just establish the fact I'm not actually racist? I think what it is I look hugely racist, but I'm hugely not racist. So in a sense, all of this is a bit of a waste, really. And when you think there are actual racist people possibly walking past this venue as we speak, who would love to look like me. Dream of looking like me, have plastic surgery and everything. And I'm probably showing off here, but I bet I'm the most racist-looking comedian on the entire comedy circuit. In this price range. But of course, the poetic irony of me looking so fucking horribly aggressively racist is my wife is black. We do that sort of thing in East London. And, you know, you might have noticed I'm wearing hearing aids, actually. That's because my wife is Nigerian. Come on, white people, let yourselves go with this. If you see black people laughing at any of this stuff, it means it's okay for you to laugh, right? No pressure. Yeah, I remember when it happened. I went to the audiologist. He went, "Is your wife Nigerian?" I went, "Yeah." We're getting a lot of this with multiculturalism.
Finally got a chance to hear the music of Keith Urban. I thought to myself, gee, this guy might want to change his name to Keith Rural. If you know what I mean. But boy, there's a lot of women in music these days, don't you think? A lot of women in music. I love it. I think it's great. Listen, believe me. I think it's terrific. I heard this story because I'm in the industry. I get some of these inside stories, kind of cool. I heard this. I couldn't believe it was true. This young musician, she was, I guess, just starting out, and she was in the studio, and she was singing her song, and she couldn't get a sense of the tempo. You know, she couldn't get a sense of whether it should be too fast or too slow. She didn't know what was going on. So she was young. She said to the producer or the engineer, whoever it was, in the behind the board, you know, and she said, can you help me here with the pace of this? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? And the engineer, he doesn't know, right? He's just pushing buttons, right? So he goes to the producer who's sitting next to him, or manager, we don't know. And he says, what should I tell her here? You know, what should we say? And he goes, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Tell her to play the song swiftly. Yeah. And then, of course, Lady Gaga's out there doing her thing. How many Lady Gaga fans do we have here tonight? I'll count myself. I think what she's doing is important and cool. And I love Lady Gaga. But what's next? Lord Goo Goo?
This one is an impression of a restaurant. Finally, someone's had the courage. Okay. A little impression of a restaurant. Go on, then. Have as much salt and pepper as you like. That's good, isn't it? That is, you're like, yeah, I recognise that. That is a restaurant. And that's half the battle, recognising them. Not an Italian restaurant, though, is it? They keep the pepper to themselves. Do a little impression of someone who, for anyone who's ever messed up at work. Yeah, we've all been there. Okay, this is a hitman who's turned up to do a hit, but they've forgotten to screw the silencer onto their gun. Oh, very relatable stuff. Okay. Tough job, very tough.
My point is, things have always been changing, haven't they? Like, for the entirety of human history, things have been changing, and there have been people complaining that things are getting worse, while by and large, things have constantly been getting better. And I know it doesn't feel like that at the moment, in the world at the moment, it feels a bit sad, doesn't it? But, you know, things have basically been improving, and there's just been people constantly moaning about it all the time. I mean, you know, in 1658, there was someone saying, have you heard of these doctors they have now? Society is going down the toilet, which, incidentally, we haven't invented yet. But when we do, I'll be totally against it. Well, why should we have to go to the doctors? In our day, when we got sick, we would just say a prayer to God and then promptly die. And can you imagine the outcry in 1701? Yeah, you've guessed it. In 1701, when Jethro Tull... A few more people getting it now. In 1701, when Jethro Tull invented the seed drill. It's all very well for you to sit there laughing about it smugly. You're familiar with the seed drill. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen hundreds of them. At the time, people they'd have been in a riot state about it. They'd have been saying, I think it's disgusting. And then to add insult to injury, only 8 years later, some bastard invented the piano. What's next? The clarinet? Yeah, it was the clarinet. Yes, the order was seed drill. Are you concentrating on this? The order was seed drill, piano, clarinet. If you learn nothing else tonight, learn that, memorise it. And in 1785, when Jean-Pierre Blanchard invented the first working parachute, as opposed, obviously, to a non-working parachute. But actually, when you think about it, a non-working parachute is literally anything that isn't a working parachute. For example, a table. That would be an example of a non-working parachute. A pair of reading glasses. A faulty parachute. That's another one. Another example. And a concrete breeze block hurtling onto the fast lane of the M6 with a 14-year-old head attached to it. And it's interesting, isn't it, that the people who are against change, the people who are afraid of change, they hate it in every context, don't they? Everywhere there's change, they're against it. They hate it in every situation, except one, climate change. Yeah, they don't mind that, do they? Ooh, it's a disgrace, isn't it? You can't say filthy bender bumboy up the arse anymore. Oh, the Arctic tundra's melted. Not a problem. And it's ironic, isn't it, that the Christian right, they believe so strongly in fossil fuels, but they don't actually believe in fossils. And the word trigger. Nothing triggers these people more than the word trigger, does it? Oh, you've been triggered, have you? In our day, we just said we were a bit upset. In our day, we didn't have mental health. We would just get angry. And either punch someone in the hip or struggle for years with unresolved emotions. Alienating one's family slowly over decades, whilst consistently putting down your adult daughter. Until everyone you loved loses interest in you and you die alone in a hostel in Ashton-under-Lyne. We wouldn't get triggered. Yeah, you're right. It's a silly word, but I'm not sure it's your principal problem, Derek.
Is that what you want, you sociopath? I mean, the worst of it was, I originally grew up, at least initially, in South Africa, so I didn't have this when I was a kid. But when I moved here, I discovered that all of you were being shamed into finishing your food using hypothetical African children. It's quite a creepy thing to discover, to be honest. I also don't know why they have to be African every time. I'd never heard it before in South Africa, ever in my life. And I was at a friend's house. I was maybe 8 years old, I don't know. And his mum said it in front of me, you know. My friend wasn't finishing his food. He said, you better eat those fish fingers. There's kids in Africa who'd love those fish fingers. And I was there like... I mean, I've just come from there. I mean, maybe, I don't know. How do you know? It hasn't been mentioned. I think it was democracy we wanted. Maybe fish fingers second? To celebrate? Weird. The dinner table is no place for patronizing neo-colonial rhetoric. I think that's in Debrett's. Very, very strange. And also, again, I don't get the logic of what kind of response you want from the kid. You know, there's a kid there, I don't want to eat this fish finger. Well, you better eat that fish finger. There's a starving boy in Africa who'd love that fish finger. Oh. Well, in that case... I'll eat every crumb if it means he starves. I'd lost my appetite, Mother, till you mentioned the dying boy. I'll eat it just to keep it from his little fingers. It's the reaction of a demon. The only logical reaction is my reaction. I don't want this fish finger. Well, there's a starving boy in Africa who'd love that fish finger. What? You're telling me that this fish finger that I do not want could save the life of another little boy? We're fucking quick. What are we even talking for? Quick, fucking refrigerated envelope or something. I don't know. Wait, how long have you known about this? Decades? I'm 8. That's going to be my defense at The Hague. Quick, give me the fucking envelope. Quick, quick, quick. Where are we sending this? Africa? We got to narrow that down. That's why I said hypothetical African children, by the way. Not because there are no hungry African children, of course there are, but your parents just didn't have a specific village in mind, shall we say? Or country. If we're honest with ourselves. Just, you know, Africa, that fucking country. It's a very strange way to decide if something's any good. Imagining a hypothetical African boy and wondering if they'd envy you. Enjoy it or don't. Am I enjoying myself? I'll imagine an African boy. And if I think he'd envy me, I'm having a good time. It's really creepy. I think I don't like it because it's comparative enjoyment, right? You go, I'm going to enjoy this on the basis that someone else has it worse. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it's even moral. The master of comparative enjoyment, by the way, was Charles Dickens. Now, if you don't know who Charles Dickens was, that is your fault. I really think society could not have done more to help with the whole who is Charles Dickens question. And I think once there's a Muppets version of something, it really is down to the individual. You're not going to get more accessible than puppets. So Charles Dickens, the Victorian author, he was obsessed with Christmas, not just in his work, where he basically invented the idea of modern middle-class Christmas, but in life, as a guy, he was obsessed, and he would have a big Christmas feast every year with his friends, family, associates. And one year, Charles Dickens hired an actor to pretend to be a tramp, right? Dress up like a tramp, big coat and boots. And his job was to stand outside Charles Dickens' window during the Christmas feast and stamp his boots in the ice and slush and
sort of say loudly complaints about how awful his life was. You know, oh, it's a bitterly cold Christmas Eve. Oh, if only I had a family of my own. You know, things like that. And the idea was that these would drift through the window to the ears of the guests of Charles Dickens, whereupon they would be all the more grateful for the good food, wine, and company of old Charles Dickens. Now, isn't that less the sort of thing you'd expect from Charles Dickens and more the sort of thing you'd expect from Hannibal Lecter? Isn't that mad? And there was no lesson, by the way. There wasn't a bit where the tramp came in and went, gotcha, like, no. It was just like a meal enhancement device. I mean, I'm not knocking its effectiveness. It would work. I've considered it. I know a lot of out-of-work actors. For the price of a beer, I could have someone outside the door of this theatre dressed as a tramp right now. Oh, it's boring in the corridor. No one's observing anything out here. I wish someone would talk about sandwiches in a semi-sexual manner. And you'd all go, oh, yeah. Oh, we're lucky to be here. If anything, I think Dickens didn't make the most of it. Keep the guy on retainer, have him round the house. Right? Night time, pop him in the corridor, outside the bedroom. Oh, it's lonely here in the corridor. I wish I was having sex with an author. Oh, there isn't even a penis in my mouth. I wish I had a fantastic penis like Charles Dickens, I've heard. And in the bedroom is Mrs. Dickens going, hey, you know what? That homeless man in the corridor is right. I'm lucky to be here. There's kids in Africa who'd love to fuck Charles Dickens. Comedy is about context, isn't it?
Man, did you ever go to a cafe? You know they have that baked goods display? There'll always just be one fly. I always go to the barista, I'm like, why are there Danishes in the fly enclosure? You know, to build a rapport. I've never talked to anyone, but I don't even have the self-esteem to have a dietary requirement. I see someone say they're gluten-free, I'm like, he believes in himself. This guy, more boundaries than a surveyor. I'm not an assertive person. I could be really thirsty. I'll be at a friend's place. I won't ask directly for a glass of water. I'll just be like, do you ever swivel that tap? What? I hate confident people. All my friends have anxiety disorders, which is great, because if you do a no-show, they think it's their fault. They blame themselves. They're like, maybe I shouldn't have been born, eh? But we hate that fly. Remember the fly? Because it's just hovering over the cupcake, making it all disgusting. It does nothing. It's unemployed. Love the bee, though. Yeah? Because it's out there, pollinating jacarandas. Fly in, fly out. FIFO. It's a fly in high-vis. Now, if flies started cleaning up dog shit as opposed to hovering over it, we'd start respecting them and it'd be illegal to spray them. The only difference between animal cruelty and pest control is the work ethic of the insect. And you know the insect known as the wasp? I'm not talking about white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I'll be explaining the subtext as we go along. I'm talking about the insect. It's got all the unemployment of the fly and all the violence of the bee, just in the worst corporate merger of all time. A wasp is like that construction worker that's been sacked, but they're still hanging around. Just, yeah, I used to work for Rio Tinto. But you think of all these creatures. You think of the bee. They've got a hive. That's nice. Bit of community. Even the wasp, as debauched a creature as it is, still has a nest. More of a share house turned into a meth lab vibe, but nonetheless, a community. Then you look at the Fly, no headquarters. Freelancing, they're sole traders. Air tasker, doing tasks in the air. There's a piece of dog shit on Kent Street. Get to it, boys. They're all just knocking each other out of the way. There's no camaraderie. And if they die in transit, no one investigates. Like a Deliveroo. But yeah, so that's...
So these days, for me, it's Delta. Mostly it's because when I fly there, they call me a sky priority. And I like the sound of that. At first, it's too much. You're like, sky priority? You know, please, I'm a regular citizen like everyone else. One man, one vote. I never asked for anything more. Please, my father was a sky priority. But then they keep repeating it, and they massage your ego with it, with little perks. Oh, right this way, sky priority, a slightly shorter line. And then you find yourself agreeing with it, like, well, yes, of course. There's a certain ring to it after all. Sky priority? There's nothing wrong with that. My mother always said we were destined for greatness. Sky priority. I think I deserve a separately stanchioned entrance once in a while. Excuse me, are you staring at me? I'm going to move my bag over here. You can look in your own direction. I'm a sky priority, thank you. Well, that's it means that I'm a priority of these damn skies. All the airlines, they have little categories that they have to compliment you. Make you feel special because you paid too much money or you got lucky and you're in exit row or something. They have these frequent flyer programs. They've been doing these since the 1980s. And it used to start out with just gold. That was the that was what it all was 40 years ago. Congratulations, you're one of our gold members. But they had to pile on more shit to sound more special than that over the years. So at this point, gold status is the lowest category on any air. Gold is the worst. When they board the flight, they're like, we now welcome gold. Boo. Gold will board last in shame. Gold will be stuffed into the fuselage along with the luggage. Now they have all these categories that are outrank gold, and it's when they board the flight, it's just a parade of precious metals and gemstones. To get on the fucking flight, when they board, they're like, we now prepare to welcome aboard all members of the elite Sapphire Squadron. All the rest of you will bow your heads. Contemplate the sacrifice of the Sapphire Squadron. And you will kneel. Respect and deference as the Sapphire Squadron. The jetway is yours. Oh, what's this? The sacred horn of the sky? What a rare and lucky day. That means that we have someone that outranks even the Sapphire Squadron. The Sapphire Squadron must yield. Yes, yes, yield, yield, I say. For today we welcome aboard a member of the Hermetic Order of the Platinum Chalice. Whatever it is, there's one guy. He's like, well, yes, I'm Platinum Chalice. I'm wearing my epaulets to prove it. I flew 50,000 miles yesterday. Here's the one extra bag that entitles me to excuse me. I'm a member of the Platinum Chalice. I am a member of the Sapphire Squadron, and I suggest you tread lightly. I am also beloved of this airline. Oh, the Sapphire Squadron! I've heard of you. Out of my way, dog! You will pay for this insolence once the One World Alliance hears of it. That's what's happening on Delta Airlines.
I'm thinking of, you know, everyone says that you've got to like upskill, like learn to code or something. I'm thinking of reskilling as a guide dog. Mainly for the uniform. You've seen those sexy little vests they got? Those slutty little harnesses they make guide dogs wear. I'd love one of those. You'd respect me if I was wearing one of those. An outfit that says, I'd love to stop and sniff your ass, but I'm on the job. I'm dedicated to my work. God, I'd be such a brilliant guide dog, you know. I'd be chatty like a cab driver. That would be like my thing. You know, like it hooks me up to the lead, and I'm like, all right, boss, where are we going today? Don't worry, I'll be your eyes and ears. He's like, just eyes is fine. I love seeing a guide dog, because they're the embodiment of like dutiful solemnity. Do you know what I mean? They stick by their person through thick and thin. Other dogs, they try and distract them, play with them, have fun. Guide dogs not having it. Have you seen this? Other dogs do to guide dogs what we do to the guards outside Buckingham Palace. But they're like that. They're not having it. Do you not think it's a bit heartbreaking sometimes? When you see a guide dog, because what are they? They're like a Labrador or a Golden Retriever or something. That's what they are, right? Famously like the happiest looking dog. But a guide dog's got such a straight face, you're like, wow, you must take your job really seriously. Do you know what I mean? I understand it, because it's a hard job to have for a dog. It's a tough life being a guide dog. Your owner has the best stick in the world, but it's the one stick they're never going to throw. Imagine you're a dog and your owner has that stick and they never throw it. You'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's why they look so serious. Every day they wake up straight in their vest, look in the mirror and go, today's the day that thing goes flying. You believe it. Oh, man. I think mental health care has really gone downhill since the 1800s. Do you know what I mean? They used to put you in a big soft hotel with all your friends. Now you have to have like an emotional support animal, like a therapy pet, which is rubbish. It sucks. It's like, oh, you're suicidal. Would it help if we let you take a dog on the plane? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't get myself out of bed in the mornings, but I'll try getting a dog through airport security. See if that helps somehow. But then experience in this magical world, it kills the cynic in all of us eventually, doesn't it? What I'm saying is I got one of like a therapy pet and it changed my life. I got a therapy ant. That's right, I'm an ant mum. And but the government, they're going to take my ant away because the breed I have, it's called an American Ant XL. Size of this cunt you would not believe. 8 seats he takes up on the plane. And the government, they're going to confiscate my ant because they say that my breed of ant is responsible for over 90% of cases of toddlers being stolen from a picnic. Can you believe that? Not my Brutus. You just have to get to know him.
Very, very private. Every morning when I go into Costa, I give a fake name every single time. Don't know why I do that, right? In fact, I've given you a fake name there. I go to Starbucks. I wouldn't be seen dead in a Costa. You kidding me? The name I do give, though, is John Spencer. Now, you don't know this, but I did some research, found out the local area manager of all the Starbucks near me is called John Spencer. That gets you a good cup of coffee. But I lie all the time. I lie to my friends. Like if I'm out at a restaurant and everyone's saying, oh, what are you going to order? What are you going to order? I hate that question. So I lie. Right? I hate that question because I'm like, you're gonna find out in 2 minutes. Why are we bothering with finding out this stuff? So I'm like, oh, I don't know, the scallops. And then a big conversation breaks out about the way I'm pronouncing scallops. And then the waiter comes over, I'm like, the steak, please. And my friend's like, what? You said, we had a whole conversation about the way they pronounce scallops and now you ordered the steak. Are you telling the truth about anything, Stuart? Did you even get here by hot air balloon? I'll never tell. But it's so difficult these days to be truly private because, like, social media, the algorithms know everything about us. They know where we are, what we like, but they're not listening in. Found this out. They're not listening in, and I think that's a shame. That's a shame, right? I want it listening in. Are you kidding me? I'm fucking funny. I don't mind. If you're in the government, who have you got today? Stuart. Oh, you're in for a good day. I don't want them knowing where I am. I'm 39. I go to M&M World way too much. I'm obsessed with that place. If you don't know about M&M World, it is a shop in the middle of London, the most expensive place to have a shop in the entire country, and it is 4 floors, and all it is no one's favourite chocolate. That's all they sell. It has to be a criminal organisation. That is the only explanation. I don't understand it. I'm obsessed. But because of the fact that you're in here with me, your algorithm will now be affected by being here with me. You'll start getting served adverts after the show for gelées. And presumably my algorithm will be affected by being in here with you, and I'll start getting served tickets to a more mainstream comedian. Always hurts when that one gets a laugh. I realised that I was having a problem with privacy when I was sat on a train and I suddenly realised I was panicking because I didn't want people to know I was getting off at the next stop. I thought, that's too private, right? But you know that feeling when you're on the train and you're just sort of minding your own bees, just like, yeah. You know that feeling? You're just minding your own bit, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You know that feeling, right? Yeah. Sorry, I know what's happened here. Bees. It's short for business. It's not normal length for bees. If any of you are like, oh, I could take bees on a train, trust me. If you take one thing from this show, you cannot take bees on a train. What? Fine, I'll get a taxi. What? Fine, I'll take the hot air balloon. But yeah, I was sitting there just like minding my own bees, just taking it all in. Yeah. And you know that feeling, and then you spot them, right? That person, they're putting on their coat, they're packing away their book, and you think, you fucking mug. It's fucking amateur hour over here. I got the cut of your jib, sunshine. You're getting off at the next stop, you pathetic fucking fuck. Now, I would hate anyone to think those terrible words about me. So I do everything I can to make it look like there is no way I'm getting off at the next stop. I try and look as comfortable as possible. I start taking layers off down to the base gilet. Couple of books out, get a couple of books on the go, right? They're like, oh, this guy's got a lot of reading to do. He's here for a while. And then if that's not working, I'll start a haircut. Yeah. Not on myself. I've got that Play-Doh set, you know, where you force it through the skull and then it comes out. Bloody hell, he's got old fringe to do. He's here for a while. And then just to seal the deal, just in case anyone's on the edge, right, I'll just start a rumour. Classic me. That is classic me. And we all know how rumours work, right? You say something subtle that someone wants to gossip about. So the person next to you hears it, they're like, oh, I've got to tell everyone on the carriage. Right, something subtle just to tease the fact that you might be on the train for a little while longer than they expect. Just something casual. Just be casual, just for them to... I am in this for the long haul. That goes round the carriage like wildfire. Of course it does, right? That sort of gossip, you can't let that lie. And then just before the doors close at my stop, I fling everything out. Gilet flapping in the wind, Play-Doh hair going everywhere. I dive out after it. Everyone's like, what? What the hell was that? I don't know. It looked like a really comfortable man. Yeah, I heard rumours he was in it for the long haul. Yeah, I even took a photograph of him just in case someone asked me to design a pamphlet about how comfortable train travel can be. Oh, you're a graphic designer, are you? No, but I harbour ambition. You're human. I'm human. And then they kiss. What are we talking about?
I try and be a real parent, right? And what I mean by that is try and be real. If I'm a little bit selfish during the birth of my child, I'll tell you, but I'm never going to claim to be perfect. I hate fake social media parenting. Make it seem like they're amazing parents. And what they do is they do this thing where they say things their kids have said. They post things that their kids have said. Oh my God, my son just said this and this is mental. And it's always some like socially conscious woke point that this 3-year-old has made. And you know that 3-year-old didn't say it because you've met that 3-year-old. And that 3-year-old is a fucking idiot. Last time I saw him, he was eating a pair of socks with a knife and fork and wearing potato waffles on his feet. So I don't know if he's making statements like that. You know what I'm talking about? It's parents who will say things their kids have said, so you think, oh, you've raised them so well. And then they blow up. These posts blow up. You know, some woman, you know, being like, was driving my daughter through Belfast earlier, and she said to me, Mummy, can I ask you something? And I said, darling, you can ask me anything. In brackets, that's a relationship we have. She said, Mummy, is that a man or a woman in the car beside our car? Is it a man or a woman? Because I'm not sure. And I said, yes. And she said, Mummy, thank you. I guess love is love. 12,000 likes. And you know it didn't happen, you know? Some guy being like, I was driving my son to school today and he said to me, Daddy, can I have more pocket money? And I said, come on, son. There's a cost of living crisis on. There are people less fortunate than us. You know, not everyone gets bought the very expensive gifts that I'm able to buy for you and your brothers and sisters. Why do you need more money? You should actually be thinking of ways to give your money away. And my son said, like all the charity work you do, Daddy. And I said, son, I do not like to go on about that. And my son said, but Daddy, did you not do that abseil down that hotel in 2002? With your bad back, that must have been so sore. I said, son, shush. I said, son, why do you need more pocket money anyway? And he said, well, Daddy, I don't think we should just stop at walking a mile in the shoes of asylum seekers. He said, Daddy, I need more money because I want to buy shoes for asylum seekers. Daddy, I want to buy a pair of memory foam Skechers for a Syrian immigrant. That's what I want to do, Daddy. My wee man. He's 7 months old. You know that didn't happen because kids don't talk like that. My kids don't talk like that. If I tweeted and posted what my kid said, my 3-year-old, it would not go viral. It wouldn't change the world because he's not this like political-minded, woke guy. My 3-year-old just talks like a 3-year-old. I can't tweet this. My son said to me recently, I was driving him in the car. My son said, Daddy, can I ask you something? I said, yeah, mate, what do you want to know? He said, Daddy, being serious, do you think anyone has ever picked their nose so hard that they died? I said, I don't know, we're looking that up. Let me tell you, we're looking that up when we get home. That is a cracker. I fucking... Imagine. My wee man. You want to learn them stuff as well? Want to be a good teacher for my son, but you don't always know the answer straight away. I was driving my son recently. My son said, Daddy, can I ask you something? He's 3. I said, what do you want to know, mate? You ask me anything, I'll tell you the answer. He said, Daddy, see all the seas in the world? Is that all one sea, Daddy, or is it all wee different seas? I said, fucking... What? 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 Fucking hell. What do you mean? Is it? What do you? Do you mean like is all the different seas I tell you about like on the wee map we have, like I show you them, like the Atlantic Sea, the Irish Sea, and the Mediterranean? I said, do you mean are they all like separate, like individual bodies of water, or is it all like all joined up seas? He said, yeah, Daddy, are they all different or is it all joined up? I said, I'm on the hard shoulder with the hazards on, right? I said, Well, they have different names, so there would be different. We'll ask your mummy when we get home. We'll have a laugh for her trying to explain it. She won't know. Some adults wouldn't know that, and you should think about that because some adults don't. Fucking shut up. And he started asking me more stuff. So I obviously just put all the back windows down, sped up, because if you're on the motorway once you hit 70, it goes in his wee ears, and he's so Daddy Meardrew. So I said, well, stop being weird. Like you guys know the answer. Yeah, it's a big giant, see? All joined up. Wouldn't be possible.
Paedophile hunters are real. They're these guys who are trapping paedophiles by pretending to be children. This is online, by the way. They're not going around in school uniform and a big net. Got one! They go online and they set up an account and they pretend to be a kid. And then they start chatting to different people online, and eventually they chat to a paedophile. They ask to meet up, they turn up. I'm not a 14-year-old boy, you idiot. I'm a paedophile hunter. You're under arrest. Now, the police aren't happy about this at all. The police are saying it's interfering with their investigations, so the police are trying to catch these paedophile hunters by pretending to be paedophiles. The police are going online, setting up accounts, pretending to be paedophiles, chatting to the paedophile hunters who are pretending to be children. They all arranged to meet up. I'm not a 14-year-old boy, I'm a paedophile hunter. You're under arrest. No, I'm not, because I am not a paedophile. I'm a police officer. You're under arrest. This is happening all over the UK. If you ever see two blokes arguing near a playground, there's a high chance that's a police officer and a paedophile hunter. I think Prince Andrew could be an undercover police officer.
I don't go to the doctors very often, so when I do, I just give him everything that's wrong with me. And in no particular order at all. I'm just like, help me, right? And I go in, I'm just really honest. I go, doctor, me and my wife went to Whitby on holiday recently, and I don't know if you know Whitby, but there's very high cliffs in Whitby, and the whole time I was there, I kept getting intrusive thoughts to jump off the cliff, jump off the cliff, jump off the cliff. Then one night, doctor, me and my wife were walking along the pier, and I see an old couple kind of leaning up the pier, eating fish and chips. And I very vividly imagine clotheslining the old couple off that pier, and I'm clearly seeing them in my mind falling and smashing against the rocks, and their elderly, blooded, frail bodies in the fish and the chips just washing into the ocean. And do you think this is athlete's foot? It's a bit red on the side there, I don't know if you can see that.
Like, I saw a meth head, or a gentleman that smokes meth, if you will, get on the tram in Melbourne, and he got on and he went like this. Transformers, more than meets the eye. It must be good to let go, you know what I mean? Do you know how many times I've been in meetings or whatever and wish I'd just gone, Decepticons! And, like, I'm not trying to have a go at meth heads. Like, my cousin was a meth addict and he recovered, but I'll tell you something fascinating about it. The meth energy never goes. You got that shit for life. Like, he's still fucking... Literally, he's like that in conversations. But now it's about granola. You know what I mean? Like, sick granola, man. How many fibres are in there? Fucking antioxidants. Sick! Like, he walks into organic shops like, fuck. Where's your fucking goji berries, cunt? This meth head, he's walking up and down the tram, he's screaming, he's having arguments he never got to win. He's having them again where he wins them. I fucking told you, Trevor, and I was fucking right, wasn't I? You didn't fucking listen, did you? You didn't fucking listen! And then he turns to a woman standing next to me, and he goes, "You're attractive." Everyone's like, holy fuck, holy fuck. He says to the whole tram, "Women are the most intelligent of the species." Then he says this, "Sorry, if you identify as a woman." What the fuck? I did not see that coming. That fucking blew my mind. In Melbourne, even the lunatics awoke. Before he got on the tram, he's like, I'd like to announce that my pronouns are they, them. Now I'm going to get my cock out and wave it around like a helicopter. But nobody said anything because they're too intimidated. No one's going to tell a meth head to shut up. People think meth heads start screaming on the tram. They don't. They start in the park or whatever, a little bit like, fuck you, cunt. Like a little bit. That's their open mic. They're like learning, like, and then, fuck you, like, trying it. And then they're in the street shoving people. That's when they're in the support stage. Like, by the time they get on public transport, they've got a boombox. They're headlining. Fucking, fuck you, like, they're fucking cut, like that's it. Other meth heads are looking at them going, how'd you get that fucking tram? Bullshit. Like they're jealous. Because no one's ever going to tell, like, a meth head to shut up because it's too intimidating. It's like really, really hot people. Like, really attractive people. No one ever tells them to shut up and they just get crazier and crazier. Like, if Margot Robbie walks on the bus and just goes, can I sit there? You're like, absolutely you can. Welcome. Oh, my God. Yes, of course. Thank you. Yes. Fucking meth head walks on. He's got a chicken in a bag. He's got a tin of peaches. He's like, I'm sitting there. Absolutely you are, my friend. Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you. Welcome.
I got married 2 years ago. But we didn't go on our honeymoon until last year. Yeah. We went to Italy. Yeah. Boy, they are Italian over there. You think you're prepared for it, because, like, it's Italy, and then you're sitting in a cafe in Rome, and the server comes over, and he's like, okay, so first of all, we know do spaghetti. And you're sitting there like, oh, my God. The racist didn't go far enough this time. We were in Naples. We went to Naples, and in Naples, I saw 3 people riding one Vespa. 2 of them were smoking unfiltered cigarettes, and the third was holding an open bottle of red wine. It was a toddler. It was a toddler holding the wine. In Naples, they use toddlers as cup holders for wine. We went to the Vatican on our trip, which, as a Jew, does feel like a secret mission. I felt like if I made it all the way through without getting detected, I should get to kiss the Pope. And it's just like, mwah, you didn't find me. He'd probably be cool with it, right? This Pope, isn't it still like the cool Pope right now? Isn't it still... Yeah, the Pope was just like that's his energy. He's like, hey, call me Rick, how are ya? Yeah, like, you know, he doesn't do the big hat, he does a little Catholic yarmulke, that's his energy, right? Kirkland signature robes, that's the Pope. You know who I feel bad for is the next Pope. Because he didn't sign up for all this humble stuff. Right? If he ever wants to go back to full Pope hat strength, he's gonna have to do it gradually, or people are gonna talk. He's gonna have to, every week, wear a slightly bigger hat. He's gonna be in meetings at the Vatican like, okay, so first order of business is, and one of the cardinals is gonna be like, Your Holiness, is that a bigger hat? No. It's a different hat. It was scary, Italy. A little bit. Because as you're going around the country, you're learning a little bit about its history. And I was reminded that not too long ago, Italy used to be a fascist country. In the 1930s and the 1940s, under Benito Mussolini, they were fascist. And that was crazy to me because this is also the country that invented the ravioli. And it's just hard to hold those two ideas in your head at the same time. Although, I guess if you lived in a country where one person invented something as impactful as the ravioli, you might be more willing to believe that a man could be God. And then I thought about it some more, and I realized something startling. Many of the countries that have given us the finest dumplings on the planet have, at one time or another, succumbed to fascism. Think about it. Russia, dumplings, fascism. Poland, dumplings, fascism. China, in my opinion, the finest dumplings on the planet, but also, occasionally, unfortunately, fascism. So I guess the question that we need to ask ourselves as Americans is, do Hot Pockets count? Because otherwise,
There is someone who I'm trying to emulate, by the way. It's not just like doom and gloom. I have like a hero who has a good time, who I'm trying to follow and learn from. I heard about him from a friend of mine. He's like my cool friend. He goes all around the world going to techno concerts? Recitals, techno recitals. I don't know anything about that. I read big books about the Second World War. We're different guys. So he goes all to the techno recitals, and he was telling me about a techno venue in Berlin called Berghain, right? Now, Berghain, it's like a 5-story former industrial site, originally very much a sort of gay BDSM techno club, and they've expanded their remit to almost any BDSM. And you can queue up and stuff, but you can't like pay to skip the queue or pay to get in. It's very exclusive in a way money can't buy. It's very trendy, very discerning. Obviously outside there's a guy dressed as a tramp. Oh, I wish I was being fisted by a Hungarian man. Anything to enhance the fun inside. And when you go inside, it's like amazing techno DJs and like people like having sex and doing drugs. It's like the apocalypse in there. And he's telling me all about it, and I've got nothing. Oh, it sounds like Sicily 43. I got nothing. And he says there's a guy who's quite well known, and you meet him in the sort of gents' toilet, right? And what he does is you go in there, and he has sort of tied himself up under the big trough in the loo, yeah? And if you go to the loo for a wee, this guy will ask you in English and German very politely if you wouldn't mind, sir, perhaps considering having a wee on him as well, because it's his favorite. It's all, and if you say no, he's like, "You, no worries, you have a good night." You know, it's all very civilized in context. And he is known colloquially as the Piss Goblin. And you can Google him, Piss Goblin Berlin, as I did, seconds after this conversation finished. And I don't know if there's anyone I currently admire more than the Goblin. I really mean it. Even as my friend was describing the Piss Goblin, I was thinking, now here is a guy with no questions left. This guy knows who he is. This guy knows what he wants. Piss. But it's a big deal to know what you want, isn't it, out of life? There's a lot of people in this room who don't know what they want yet. This guy's got it nailed down. He knows what he wants. And he goes and he gets it. Even if you're sitting here and you know what you want. Have you got it yet? The Goblin has. The Piss Goblin knows what he wants. He goes and he gets it. Where does he get it? Somewhere he is safe and known and accepted for who he is. There's no one in this room as fulfilled as the Piss Goblin. He's the freest man I know, and he's chained to a urinal. I can't imagine the inner strength it gives him, knowing that all that stuff's just figured out. He's out there now, some regional German civil servant. He's filling in report after report into Autobahn maintenance, you know. His boss is a real dick. Wo sind diese Berichte? Schnell! And he's like, I'm doing them, my God! Oh, roll on, Freitag. Oh. Lieben für das Weekend, recht? Ja.
Because everyone here had the privilege of eating a kebab whilst completely shit-faced. It's insane, isn't it? Like, it's biblical. The way the food melts inside your mouth like the inside of a Lindt chocolate ball. Like, what is that? Also, I know it's a comedy show, I don't want to get too scientific, but when you eat when you're drunk, the calories don't count. It's like eating on a train, it's not technically a meal. Smart, smart, smart. The thing is, I've got this cute thing I do, it's so adorable. When I'm drunk and emotional, I can now eat 2 kebabs in the space of time it takes the average human to eat half a kebab. What? Where do you put it? It's just the metabolism thing. Like, look at my wrist. Thing is, I found out in a horrible way. How bullshit is this? If you go into a kebab shop by yourself late at night, crying with a tit hanging out, and order 2 kebabs, they're like, 2 kebabs, where's your friend? What the fuck? I want food, not shame! Luckily, I've got smart about it. I'll tell you what I do, very simple. What you want to do, go to one kebab shop. Order 1 kebab. And then you eat it. On the way to the second kebab shop. It's late at night. There's people in the second kebab shop. You don't want to get caught out. That'll be embarrassing. Wipe yourself down for crumbs. I like to use my training at the Bauer School of Drama to take on the role of woman who has never heard of a kebab before in her life. And you go in the second shop like... What is this place? Sorry, I usually don't come here. I love salad. This is so mad for me. Isn't it table service? I don't know. Who is Donna? So cute! Show. It's only because I'm always so paranoid whatever I'm doing that everyone's watching me and judging me. You know that feeling, particularly when I'm eating, everyone's looking at me like, oh, why is she eating that? I cannot get over it. I think it's because whatever I do in my life, I'm always like, this has got to be a scene. Surely I'm on, you know? We should be filming this. I just watched way too much reality TV show and grew up in a drama school, and I think it really does a number on your head. Have you guys seen the film The Truman Show? Yeah, it's a good film, right? I feel like most people watch The Truman Show and go, Jim Carrey, a comedic genius as well as a great dramatic actor. I watched it and I was like, oh, that is such a good idea for a TV show. It's amazing, it's such a good idea. Someone must have made it. Someone would have made it, it's so good. But if they'd have made it, I would know about it. Because I watch all those shows. So if it's been made, and I don't know about it, Truman has to be me. What is so frightening about saying that, and most of you going, really quiet, is it just makes me so much more paranoid that you're all actors and you think scene's gone wrong. Like, I figured it out live on stage in front of you. What are you gonna do? Like, I just... Think about it. How would I know? How would I know? My first day in life would be my first day on set. My entire life, everyone would be acting around me. And like any baby in any long-running TV show, like EastEnders or Coronation Street, that baby is cast because they are cute. It's around 6 years old, the director looks at that kid and goes, cute kid, can't act. Better replace him. Can't replace me. I'm being Truman'd. Or Bowered. Need to get me some acting lessons. Easiest way to do that, start the Anne Bauer School of Drama in my house. This is the brain I live with! And most people think it would be a nightmare being filmed 24/7. A nightmare? Come on, I would love it. I wouldn't know the cameras were there, they'd capture my full range. They'd finally be able to capture a side of me that I could never show people. Like, I don't know, my vulnerable side. Like, I can't even say it. That is how afraid I am of being vulnerable. I just think I need to be tricked into being vulnerable. I need to be tricked into it. My whole life I've just wanted one of those moments where people look at me and they go, oh my God, what's going on with her? Do you think she's okay? Because no one ever asks randomly, and I'm always doing a show, so no one ever thinks that I'm not okay. No one asks when you're a child because they can't figure it out, but no one asks when you're an adult because they assume you can tell them, because they assume that you are able to communicate. I can't. I just have to hope people figure it out. I think we all know this feeling from school. Like at school, my dream at school was, you know that moment when you're sitting in the classroom, teacher at the front, and the receptionist comes in with a note for one of the students. And we know this note. It's usually that someone's forgotten their school lunch money or like forgot their PE kit. But every now and again, this note was something more. And whenever this receptionist came in, I was just like, what? Is it death? Is it for me? Just so excited at the prospect of being told something awful in front of people. Want to hear something ridiculous? All 4 of my grandparents died when I was at school. My parents told me when I got home. No one sent a note. What a waste! Could have been a beautiful scene! I mean, how much drama did I want in my life? Like, seriously. I was raised inside of a drama school. I did drama GCSE. I was surrounded by drama and it was never enough. Of course it was never enough. I mean, look at me. I'm a white middle-class woman from a white middle-class town. There was no drama. We created our own. Our only currency growing up was imagined emotional trauma. And my God, did we love it. When I was 13, our 2 drama teachers at my school did something amazing. They decided that everyone in my year had to write and perform a monologue to the rest of their class, which is a terrifying exercise. And we could do anything we wanted. Like, it could be comedic, silly, slapstick even. But my God, we went dark. And we went dark hard. The boys, they were okay at it. Like, they were okay. Like, every boy in my year pretended to be a drug addict on the back of a motorcycle, which was just like a classroom chair they turned around, and they were like, oh my God, I'm just so addicted to smack. And it's like, okay, George, your mum shops at Waitrose, you're fine. The girls, so much worse. We'd read Jacqueline Wilson. We knew what we were doing. One girl in my year, incredible, age 13, wrote and performed a monologue pretending to be a wife who had just murdered her ex-husband, wiping the blood off her hands. Another girl, age 13, wrote and performed a monologue pretending to be an evacuee child, lost at a station during World War II. Amazing. my friend, age 12, wrote and performed a monologue, pretending to be a 6-year-old, writing a letter to her daddy, who had just died in 9/11. Her dad worked in the Domino's in town. We saw him all the time. He'd never been to America. You know what she got? Full marks. Now, there was one thing all my classmates' monologues had in common. They were dramatic, sure. But you knew they weren't true. Because they were set in a different time zone, or they were playing a different age. And I cannot make this clear enough, that my monologue was not true. But my God, did I try and make it plausible. Because I wrote a monologue, written by me, directed by the Anne Bauer School of Drama at home. She had to be involved, she had to. About a 13-year-old girl who was being sexually abused by her dad. I wore my own pajamas that I ripped myself at the crotch for extra marks. I got an A. Thank you. And I cannot make this clear enough, because this is truly the message of the show. My dad has never hugged me, let alone fucked me.
My dad doesn't like hip-hop. I like hip-hop. We have arguments sometimes, me and my dad, but I think he's starting to win the argument, because hip-hop confuses me. Every hip-hop song now just seems to have a voicemail in the middle of it. Right in the middle of the song. It'll just be like, "Hi, Kendrick, it's your mom. Just leaving you this message to say, keep striving for greatness." And always believe, where's Kendrick Lamar getting all these inspirational voicemails from? You know, if I put my voicemail on a song, do you know what it would sound like? "Oh, fuck, sorry." And that's all they ever are. You can't make hip-hop out of that, unfortunately.
And it's quite odd that I've got this obsession with memory because, not to keep bringing it up, but I do have a boyfriend. And we've been together for quite a while now, but for the first 6 months of our relationship, he had severe short-term memory loss. Yeah, legitimately. That's 100%. Just full short-term memory loss. To the point where he basically couldn't create new memories, which is the perfect foundation for a new relationship. And it was, by the way, before I get into this, he's fine now. He's fine, his memory is back to normal, he's completely fine, but for this 6 months, he just couldn't remember anything. And I need to tell you that now, because you need to get on board. I've written my favourite joke of the show about this, so climb aboard. Essentially, it got to the point where it was so bad that he couldn't remember anything in his day-to-day life, basically. So we'd spend the day together, and then in the evening, I'd have to remind him, like, what we got up to that day. I'd throw in things to make him happy, like 8 blowjobs. And it was just a random medical event. It's not like anything obvious had caused it as well. It's not like he met my sister. And a short time after that, the memory loss kicked in. It was just totally random. But the reason our relationship could still work and it wasn't a full, like, 50 first date situation is his short-term memory was gone, but his long-term memory was fine. And we actually knew each other quite well because we went to school together. He was the teacher. Just kidding. For legal purposes, that is a joke. My boyfriend is not a... What's the male version of a cougar? A predator. I'll tell you before I tell you more about the memory stuff, I'll tell you a little bit about Sean, because I love him. He's the love of my life. I know that. But he is a nerdy little loser. To give an example, we're moving here to Melbourne. We're on the plane. I see he's using the plane Wi-Fi to search for the phrase Australian singles. Yeah. I was like, what is this bastard up to? We haven't even arrived yet. He's trying to cheat on me in advance. I asked him about it. I was like, why are you searching that? He's like, I'm trying to find a website in which I can buy single Yu-Gi-Oh trading cards. And I was like, oh, that's so much worse. I wish he was cheating. Like, would have been easier to explain to my parents. I was quite nervous to tell my parents I was in a relationship. I was nervous to tell anyone, really, because I developed this rule of not telling anyone I was dating anyone until it had been about 3 months, you know? Because you feel like that first 3 months, it's a bit dicey, you're not sure, and it could fall apart at any moment. And I kept doing that, where I'd start dating someone, I'd tell everyone, I'm like, by the way, I'm dating someone. Then like a week later, I'd be like, by the way, never mind. So being that 3 months. Not everyone follows that rule, by the way, but they are stupid. Dear friend of mine, she does not follow that rule. She was in our group chat recently. She messages us. She's like, hey guys, me and my man's 6-month anniversary is coming up. I don't know what to get him. What should I get him? I was like, oh, I didn't even know you had a man's. When's your 6-month anniversary? She was like, September. I was like, bitch, that's 5 months away. Don't get him anything. She's good. No, I do like her. She does have pyramid scheme energy, but... So, it had been about 4 months. I decide, finally tell my mum. I say, I'm in a relationship. Also, he's got short-term memory loss. And I think she was so excited by the first part, she did not give a shit about the second part. So, the first thing that Sean was trying to do at this time to try and solve this problem was he was trying to get an appointment at the memory doctor, which is a thing. And he couldn't get an appointment because they were fully booked out, which I thought was very funny. Because I was like, surely you could just turn up. I get the feeling some people might miss their appointment for the memory doctor. And I still maintain to this day, I feel like the memory doctor was a little bit of a scam, okay? So each session with the memory doctor cost $400. 2 weighted blankets. $400. You had to have multiple sessions. If you did not turn up to a session, they still charged you the full amount, and they did not send reminder texts. Yeah. But joke's on them because Sean forgot to pay. I was optimistic at first. I was optimistic for the memory doctor. We finally got an appointment. We get into the waiting room. We sit down on the couch, and it's memory foam. I'm like, these guys are good. They don't miss a trick here. But then it quickly I became unsure. The first thing the memory doctor got Sean to do was a depression test. And, you know, he's not feeling depressed at all at this time, by the way. Like, in his mind, he's getting 8 blowjobs a day. He's living his best life. Has anyone done it? I know this is a weird question to ask, but has anyone done a depression test before? Make some noise. Woo, yeah. Yeah. Someone did a yee-haw, like less so. The only reason I'm asking that is because I've done it before, and I just want you to back me up that there's a weird question about halfway through the depression test, which is, how indecisive are you? Then you've got to choose between 1 and 10. Like, I'm there the whole time, like, oh my God, I don't know. Anyway, he does the depression test. The results come back. He has no signs of depression. This is where I was like unsure about this guy. He was like, okay, well, it doesn't seem like you're depressed, but we're just going to give you some antidepressants anyway, just in case. And I was like, oh, like it feels like antidepressants are so useful. They're so helpful. I've been on them before. I think they're an amazing resource, but they're not just like a just in case thing, I feel. It's not like pop them like a Barocca in the morning. Just in case. But he goes on them anyway. He goes on them for a few months and he's noticing no difference. He's just kind of getting the side effects and not really any results. His memory is still gone. And I go, finally, after it's been a while, I think we should get a second opinion. And I believe that. I believe that opinions are like assholes. Better to have two. I thought this with therapy. Like, when I had my first experience with therapy and it wasn't good, I didn't know that you could just get another therapist. I thought that would be like cheating. Like, I had to pretend that I was like, oh, I'm cured, by the way. Because it's so hard to find a therapist in the first place. The way you do it, if you don't know, good on you. But well done. But you weren't attacked by a golf club. And what you do is you Google therapists near me. You know, I don't want to travel. And you go to a website and it'll be like just like a bunch of random strangers' faces and you go, oh, you look happy. And then you read their bio and it's just a list of all their favourite kinds of trauma. You're like, you seem fun. My first experience with therapy was not good. It was this lady and she was very spiritual. And I think spirituality is great if you are spiritual. I'm not. I'm very logical. She was very namaste. And I was like, I don't want to stay. She would do this thing where I would be like, oh, I'm feeling angry about this. And she'd be like, what colour is your anger? And I'd be like, I don't think that way. And she would press me on it. She'd be like, you have to participate. And I'd be like, okay, red. And she'd be like, you're making so much progress. I was like, no, I had just recently watched the movie Inside Out. I was just imagining those little guys running around. The other thing she'd do is, as she was talking to me and asking me questions, she would cross and uncross her legs and basically show me her entire crotch. It was very distracting. She'd be like, what colour is your anger? I'd be like, red and lacy. She'd be like, when did your problem start? I'd be like, the Bush administration. So we after about 6 months of all of this happening and Sean not getting better, I just bring him along to my GP just to see if she has any other ideas of what it could be. And it was just like our first moment of hope. She listed off a bunch of different things it could be, but she's like, well, first of all, you've had a blood test, right? And he's like, I can't remember. So Sean goes and gets a blood test. The results come back, and it turns out he was severely B12 deficient. He's a vegetarian, and get this, he stopped eating eggs. That's what caused the deficiency, and in turn the memory loss. Like, he was on antidepressants, but it was eggs. Eggs can be life-changing. I wish you guys could have been inside my brain when we found out it was eggs. I was losing my mind. I was like, it was eggs this whole time. You know that girl in your friend group that's like, I just need my Sunday brunch. Believe her. She's on to something. So Sean had to get a B12 shot, because when you're that deficient, you can't just slam an omelette. Like, you have to get, like, what I assume is the yolk just injected directly into your veins. I'm not a scientist. So the doctor was like, you'll notice a difference right away. And I would say within maybe 2 minutes, it was crazy. He was holding a polystyrene cup of water. The B12 went in. He crushed the cup in his hands and said, I'm so powerful. It was like he'd acquired all of the Infinity Stones. It was amazing. He was just fine. Like, he just basically, within the week, it was slowly sort of getting better and better and better until his memory was back to normal, and it was just so absurd. And since he got this checked out and since he came to my doctor, he also opened up about a couple other things that he's been struggling with. He's realised he's lived his entire life with ADHD and not known. And he's given me permission to talk about this, by the way. I'm not just laying out all of his medical history. I did ask him on a no-egg day. But that made me so sad for him as well, because imagine having ADHD and severe short-term memory loss at the same time. Like, he was just wandering around his house being like, well, I think I'm hyper-focused on something. And it's so weird for me because I always thought, because I'd been single for so long, I thought I was single because I had really high standards. Then this shriveled little man came into my life. I was like, come to mama. Got myself a little do-up. You can't build a man, but you can renovate. So that 6 months of his life, still a blip. Still can't remember that 6 months, which is strange because we started dating at the beginning of that 6 months. So in his mind, he was just in a medical clinic. A girl he went to school with wandered in and went, I'm your girlfriend, by the way. Don't question it. Little memories come back here and there sometimes. Like if it's a repetitive thing, he sometimes goes, oh, I've remembered something. He remembers one thing, which was every night before he went to bed, he remembers walking past the kitchen, looking at the toaster and seeing cold toast. So what would happen is every morning he'd get up and be like, toast for breakfast this morning. Go about his whole day, go, all right, bedtime. Fuck. Kind of like an involuntary low-carb diet. Like, if you want to get rid of bread, first get rid of eggs. So we've since looked up the memory doctor online and seen his reviews. 1.5 stars. We should have known that the eggs were going to be better just on reviews alone. We spent $1,200 with this guy, 3 sessions, $1,200 for him to give us no valuable information. Apart from randomly in conversation, he recommended these kiwi fruit ice blocks. And they're so yummy. Kiwi fruit, or as we say in New Zealand, fruit. They're so yummy. And I had one the other day and I was like, I think it was all worth it. So he was on antidepressants, but it was eggs. I guess Big Pharma wins either way.
I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I fucking hate them. They started off and they're making interesting points about racism and misogyny. Then they start calling each other H&M, and I just thought, oh, do fuck off. By the time Harry starts describing this one date with Meghan as the night, let me quote you here, me and M pulled the pin on a fun grenade. I actually started rooting for Prince Andrew. If you haven't seen the documentary, lucky you. Ginger Royal meets fit American actress. She then discovers that everything is so unfair. He then discovers that racism is actually a bad thing. And then they moan about everything. Harry says, how do you explain to someone who you've just started dating that they have to curtsy to your own grandmother? And I'm thinking, maybe just tell her that your grandmother is the fucking queen. And you're in the royal family. I don't know how to break this to you, H. But if you weren't in the royal family, M wouldn't be with you. They were complaining they had to pay for their own security. They were not happy about that. Yeah, they were very worried about their safety, which I get that aspect of things. After 6 episodes, I wanted to attack them. Something about them. I don't know what it is. I look at them. I genuinely think they are the sort of couple who look at each other when they're having sex. These are sick people. There's one thing I genuinely like about Harry and Meghan, how angry they make Piers Morgan. And the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail hate her, don't they? Hate her. I don't know why they hate that black woman. You know what I've noticed? The more they hate Meghan, the more they love Kate. I like Kate. They love Kate. Kate could do no wrong. Kate could murder a panda cub. Witnesses see her clambering over the London Zoo enclosure and kicking the shit out of this tiny, fluffy, 6-month-old, wheelchair-bound panda cub. The next morning, Daily Mail front page, caring Kate gets panda to heaven. Meghan's a whore. Have you heard that phrase, a country gets the politicians it deserves? What do you think we did? All of them, right? I mean, Keir Starmer, he looks like the sort of bloke you'll get stuck talking to at a mate's wedding. Oh, shut up, please. Rishi Sunak looked like the sort of bloke who still gets tucked in at night. Night, Rish. You done a wee-wee? Good boy, I've checked all the cupboards for monsters. It's all in your imagination, OK? Poor people aren't real. Liz Truss, that should not count as Prime Minister. That was work experience. And we weren't allowed to vote for 2 of the last 3 of them. Isn't that mad? Britain's Got Talent is more democratic than Britain. Like, for 3 years, the only chance any of us had to vote for anyone in government was when Matt Hancock went on I'm a Celebrity. Then he came 3rd on the show. Wow, the public vote. The public forgave him. I mean, what would it take for people not to forgive someone who goes on I'm a Celebrity? Sat there watching next season. Didn't like him at first, but he has won me over. I'm voting for Putin. Do you know who could do it going on next series of I'm a Celebrity? Philip Schofield. Yeah, Philip Schofield, the people's paedophile. Old Scof, he had an affair with one of his runners, didn't he? Naughty Scof. Matt Hancock had an affair with one of his aides. Don't know what an aide is. I mean, I wouldn't mind one, they seem up for it. Scof had an affair with one of his runners. I know what a runner is. A runner is someone who literally, they work on a TV show and they run around. Yeah, getting whatever the presenters want. They're all over the place. Quickly, cup of tea for Holly. There you go. Blowjob for Phil. A couple of seasons ago, I got interviewed to go on I'm a Celebrity. I didn't do it. Thank you for worrying. I didn't. One, I wasn't sure if it was the right thing for me to do. 2, they turned me down. They said not enough people know my name. Well, they've got a little bit of a point. Like, once a week, someone will come up to me in the street and be like, mate, massive fan of yours, can I grab a selfie? what's your name again? And I'll say, oh, thank you, it's Simon Brodkin. And then they'll say, no, that's not it. Amazon just put out a drama series about corruption in world football, and they got actors to recreate my whole Sepp Blatter stunt. I did not get the part of me. Went to prison for that. Got to get a little bit of credit. The funny thing about that stunt, after I threw the money over Sepp, I'm dragged out the room and I'm held just outside the press conference. 2 minutes later, Sepp abandons the press conference, and then he stood next to me. We're like a couple of naughty school kids who've both been sent out of class. One of them for chucking something, the other one for fraud, bribery and money laundering. He turns to me, he says, you should be ashamed of yourself. Fucking, I want to slap him, but I was handcuffed to a chair. And I got dragged to this police cell in downtown Zurich. It was gorgeous. The breakfast alone is worth a criminal record. The beds were divine, as I wrote in the visitor's book. They were lovely. One of the guards knocks on my cell the night after the stunt. You might want to know your little joke is all over the internet. Would you like to come and have a look? Yeah? Give me 5 minutes, just getting out of the bath. Biggest bastards were the American law enforcement after I stunted Donald Trump. So Trump was opening one of his golf courses in Scotland, right? And he was giving this big speech on the green in front of the press. I dressed up as if I worked on the resort, and then I threw hundreds of golf balls at his feet, and I said, everyone, this is part of the new Donald Trump golf range. And they all had swastikas on them. He didn't find it funny. It was actually the Scottish police that got to me first, cuffed me, arrested me, chucked me in the back of a van. I sat there crapping myself for over an hour. And then this big, burly, armed officer yanks open the van door, says, "Yous, mate, are very fucking funny." Loosens my handcuffs, gives me a sip of his iron brew, then gets me to sign one of the golf balls. They were great, yeah, the Scottish police, they were amazing. They persuaded the Americans not to press charges against me. And then they drove me to Glasgow Airport. I got a flight back to London. Or, as they told Donald Trump, they deported me. If you want to understand the difference between the US and the UK, to get around Donald Trump's security, I had to get around the CIA, FBI, Secret Service, his own personal bodyguards. I had to do reconnaissance missions, bag swap, fake ID. To get around Theresa May's security at the Tory party conference in Manchester when I gave her the P45, I had to buy a ticket. So normally after a stunt, there's a little bit of press interest, a few photographers camped outside by a house, and then a few days later everyone's moved on and forgotten about it. After Trump's stunt, it was different. Because after Trump's stunt, the Donald Trump supporting Grand Wizard of the KKK, Mr. David Duke himself, outed me as a Jew. Now, to be honest, I already knew. So I was actually okay, KK. There's some mad leaders out there. I was reading this book about Iran. Well, I wasn't reading the book about Iran. I saw a documentary series about Iran. I didn't see the series. I'm going to level with you. I saw one episode. I saw one bit of one episode, all right? It was on mute. It might not have even been Iran. They've got this leader called the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah doesn't let women in Iran show their hair. He doesn't let men suck each other off. Nutter. Why are religious leaders always the meanest? God wants us to have fun. Yeah, God loves fun. God created everything, didn't he? Alton Towers. That was God. The waffles. Bouncy castles. There's this dildo. It's got a dick on both ends. So one woman puts one end in her vagina like this, bish, right? Another woman at the same time comes around the other end, puts the other end in her vagina like this, bush, right? All right, sorry if this is turning anyone on. And then both women at the same time fuck the same dildo. It's like, And the other woman's on the other side at the same time. That's God. He's literally the most fun, isn't he? So what is the Ayatollah's problem? Like, does the Ayatollah think that God has an issue with women's hair? Does he think if you were to say to God, what is it you hate most, Almighty One? The heavens would open, a booming voice descend. It's women's fucking hair! I hate it! It blocks up plugs! Gets in your cereal! I cannot stand women's hair! Why do you think I killed my son? Because of his girly fucking bonnet! So look, I'm trying to deal with these problems in the healthiest way possible. I'm doing so much therapy, and it's going real bad. Oh, it's going bad. But that's not my therapist's fault. I need to make that clear. My therapist is an incredible person and a very, very qualified mental health professional. The problem is with me and the little thing I like to call my personality, right? My personality, the problem with it is that I'm an incredibly unfortunate combination of unbelievably anxious, but also phenomenally arrogant. So, this is how my therapy process goes. She, a mental health professional with decades of experience, will say something to me. Out loud, I'll say, but in my head, I'll think, I don't think that's true. Then, a month later, something will happen, and I'll think, oh yeah, she was right! What a pro! Everything that's wrong in the way that I interact with my mental health journey can be found in events that take place between the end of January and the start of March last year. So, at the end of January, she diagnoses me after about 4 years of working together with a generalised anxiety disorder. The next week, I come back to therapy and say the one sentence I imagine medical professionals must dread hearing the most from their patients: I have done some of my own research. And I said, I've actually come to the conclusion that it's good to have a bit of an anxiety disorder because it keeps you aware of your immediate surroundings and the threats that might be contained in your vicinity. And she said, you have no understanding of the basics of this condition. What you are describing is a spidey sense from Spider-Man. And she said, anxiety is not about being aware of the threats in your vicinity. It's being worried about things that have happened or will happen. If anything, it keeps you more vulnerable in the moment because you're never present in your body because you're worrying about things that have happened or will happen. And out loud, I said, and in my head, I thought, I don't think that's true. Then, 5 weeks later, at the start of March, I found myself off to New York for work. I land at JFK Airport, I get a taxi back to my friend's flat where I'm staying, I get out of the taxi, I speak to my girlfriend for 10 minutes, and at the end of those 10 minutes, I say, okay, I better go inside and hang up the phone. As I hang up the phone, that is the moment that it occurs to me that I have left my fucking passport on the seat of the cab, a cab that has long since disappeared into the New York night. Now, if my anxiety was keeping me aware of the threats in my vicinity, surely it would have been aware that the most crucial document in my possession was on the seat next to me where I placed it, unbelievably, for safekeeping. But in reality, I was somewhat distracted, being very worried about a faux pas I'd made at a drinks event in 2011. So I was not, shall we say, in my body. Unfortunately, the passport has gone. The grammar fans in the crowd will know that means it's become something that has happened. Therefore, it comes back into anxiety's purview, and I start doing what everyone with an anxiety disorder in this room does, which is vibrate with rage, and then immediately start beating the shit out of myself. At one point, I said to my own reflection, what's the point of you? Which I think we can all agree is an unhelpful overreaction. Then I thought, okay, I'm on my own in this apartment, I'm freaking out, I just need voices in the room. Let me just hit play on whatever the next podcast is on my podcast app. Unfortunately, the next podcast on my podcast app was an hour-and-a-half long interview with John Oliver. And at one point, I sincerely thought, I bet John Oliver never loses his passport. And as if that wasn't insane enough, the next thing I thought was, and this is why you'll never have his career. That's not why I'm not going to have John Oliver's career. I'm pretty sure John, a man who I've met once and have now immediately jumped to first-name terms with without consultation, has his career because of hard work and talent, not based on his ability to retain documents. I'm pretty sure that once a year, John Oliver is just walking down the road and someone jumps out and says, hey, Oliver, where's your passport? And he says, right here. And they go, wow. Have another Emmy. I'm pretty sure that's not how, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure.
So, the next day, I get up. My girlfriend, much calmer head in these kinds of situations, has found a UK consulate in New York who can issue me with a temporary passport. I'm going to have to go home immediately and lose a month's worth of work, but I am going to be able to get home. Now, I swing open the front door of that block of flats, and what greets me in the street is little short of a miracle, because stood directly in front of me is the taxi driver from the night before, and he is holding in his hands my fucking passport. Listen, if you're applauding that, wait until you hear what he did, okay? So this guy drops me off on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I'm his last fare of the night. He drives an hour and a half back to where he lives in Jersey. When he finishes that journey, he does what he does at the end of every shift, which is clean his cab. He then finds my passport and doesn't do what any of us, including me, would have done under the circumstances, which is think, fucking hell, I'll deal with that in the morning. He got back in his taxi, drove back to where he had dropped me off, slept in his fucking car for 2 hours, and then waited for me in the street for 45 minutes. His name was Prince. To me, he will always be a king. And when he told me... when he told me what he had done, I said, Prince, why did you do this? I so appreciate that you did this, but why did you do this? Now, some background. The thing you need to know about Prince is his family's Indian. He's from Punjab, my family's from Kerala. In the cab ride over, we talked at some length about our shared Indian ancestry and upbringing. So when I asked him why he'd done it, he said this to me. At the end of the day, I thought, I'm Indian, this kid's Indian. I don't want an Indian kid running around New York without a passport. I know how scary that can be. And in that moment, yeah, I realised something genuinely profound. Racism is incredible when it benefits you. Because based on the look in Prince's face, if that had been a white guy's passport, he would have immediately frisbeed it into a New York City sewer, whipped the bandana off a Ninja Turtle while shouting, "That's for giving one of my jewels to that woman." And look, because this really isn't a character, I went on stage that night at a comedy club in New York and retold this story exactly as I've told it to you. Now, at this point, a woman asked a question. I think the only relevant question that's worth asking at this juncture, which is... Did you pay him? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. It is correct. Also, thank you for not asking the question 10 separate people have asked, which is, do you have ADHD? I know you fucking cunts have been sat there thinking that this entire story. The first time someone said it to me, I thought, rude. Then, at the 10th time, I thought, I should look into this. I said to my therapist, do you think I have ADHD, or do you think everyone thinks everyone has ADHD now because of the internet? Do you know what she said? Yes to both. And when I said why, she said, because I sent you a referral to an ADHD specialist a month ago and you still haven't replied to the email. So thank you for asking that question. And thank you for not asking the question a man in Raleigh, North Carolina asked me, which was, which Ninja Turtle? That motherfucker definitely has ADHD. Also, of course, it was Leonardo. It's the funniest if it's Leonardo. So anyway, listen, well, I did give him money. I gave him $1,000. I went and got it out of a bank. I couldn't even go to an ATM. I had to go into a bank and speak to a fucking human being like it was goddamn 1997. I went into the bank and I said, listen, can I get $1,000 out of my account? Here's my debit card. And the guy said, listen, for that amount, I'm going to need to see some photo ID. I said, no problem, because by that point, my passport was stapled to my fucking hand. I gave him $1,000. Now, let's not be crass about this, but let's be honest about it. You know how much you paid for a ticket. You can see this room is full. So you know it is no skin off my dick to give this guy $1,000. I've never said that before. I can't believe... I can't believe the filming is when I chose to ad-lib no skin off my dick. Jesus fucking Christ. It was truly no hair off my ball bag. Look, you can tell it's fine. You can tell it's fine for me to give this guy $1,000, right? You understand the maths. Now, what I would say is in a random New York City comedy club, there was less of an awareness of my financial situation or wider body of work. So when I announced that I'd given this man $1,000, immediate audible suspicion broke out in the room as people just started loudly saying, how did this man have access at that speed to $1,000 in cash? Is he a sultan? Is he a drug dealer? Is he one of the ones that owns Manchester City? There was huge speculation. I heard the speculation, became defensive, and find myself saying, I'm actually very famous at home! At which point, a woman sat right in the front row, puts up her hand and says, I'm from England and I've never heard of you! So look, I'm trying to deal with my mental health problems. I'm listening to my therapist, sometimes a month after she tells me things, but I am listening to her. And she and I have been working together for nearly half a decade now. I initially started seeing her because I was behaving weirdly. That turned out to be symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder due to a period of time where I was receiving death threats and was the subject of hostile articles in the right-wing press in this country because they said I was saying dangerously left-wing things. You know, like racism is bad and women are nice. You know, that sort of dangerously left-wing stuff. We dealt with the PTSD, and now we're just going backwards through the timeline. Christopher Nolaning this motherfucker, Oppenheimering this bitch, hopping around the timeline. We dealt with anxiety, we're gonna get to depression, we will get to ADHD when I remember to reply to that email. But one of the first things she said to me was this. I said, listen, I'm having trouble sleeping. That's not an uncommon thing in my life. When there's something going on, I often am unable to sleep. And she said, how much exercise are you doing per week? And I said, because I think exercise is fucking boring, and I think people who talk about it with too much enthusiasm shouldn't be allowed to have children. I really believe that. Okay? Listen, I know that we want to pass on the genes of our healthiest people, but at what cost? The cost of interesting conversation. And I said this to her, and she said, I don't care. I'm not opening a conversation with you about exercise. I'm telling you, you have to exercise for your physical, but also your mental well-being. And I was saying to my friend, how the fuck am I going to exercise? I'm fucking bored of exercise. And he said, why don't you come and play football with us? My friends meet every Tuesday and play football. I said, I love football, but I'm bad at it. He said, we're all comedians. We're all bad at football. So come down. And I started going. And lo and behold, I fucking loved it. For 3 years, I was doing 90 minutes of exercise per week. Now, I know that that is not enough, but that is an on-average increase in my life of 90 minutes a week. Then, in the summer of 2023, I suffered a terrible sporting injury. I broke my little finger. Now, that's not supposed to get a fucking laugh. That's supposed to get, like, a little bit of sympathy from the audience that I then... No, don't patronise me now. It was supposed to get sympathy, and then I throw the sympathy back in the audience's face when they find out the slapstick fucking way I injured myself. Based on how much people like you fucking laughed at just me breaking my finger, when you find out how I did it, you're gonna spontaneously combust in a cloud of jizz. Okay, get ready. We're about to lose audience members because the way I broke my finger was that during a game of football, I sat on my hand. Everybody's jizzing everywhere. It's like Pompeii up in here. I will tell you the full story, okay? I was playing football and I was in goal. Everyone has to go in goal for 10 minutes. That's how the rules of five-a-side football work. No one likes it, but everyone does it. I'm playing in goal and my friend is bearing down on goal. And he goes to shoot this way, so I start to crouch down. At the last minute, he cuts across the ball, so it goes across my body, and I managed to flip my body weight in the opposite direction and save the shot with this boot. I want it known that I fucking saved the shot, okay? And the reason I want it known is it was the high point of my sporting career that was followed by the low point of my sporting career. Because I've done so little exercise in my life, I think I've got some muscles I've never used. So the speed of me doing this caused me to pull a muscle in my neck. I fell backwards like this, and then landed with my full body weight on my little finger via my arse. I broke my little finger with my own arse, which doesn't even make sense because my arse is thick, juicy and delicious. However, I didn't realise that I'd broken my finger. This is a public service announcement. You have fewer pain receptors in your fingers and toes than you do in other parts of your body. So if you think you have badly bruised your finger or toe, you have probably broken your finger or toe. Now, I did not realise this, so I was just plastering it out myself and going about my business. 3 days later, I found myself on the set of a television show, and a medic who's there for insurance purposes says, can I help you with anything medical? I say, ooh, yes. Can you tape up my finger properly? Because it's badly bruised. She takes one look at my finger and says, that finger is broken. And I said, it's bruised! She said, it's broken. I said, it's bruised! She said, it's broken. Are you noticing a pattern emerging here with me and medical professionals? At one point I said, listen, I know you're a medical professional, but at the end of the day, you're white, I'm Indian, medicine comes naturally to my people, okay? It occurs naturally in our bloodstream like midichlorians and the Force. And she said, and I don't think this is a textbook-approved phrase, that finger is fucking broken. And I went in search of a second Brauner opinion. Unfortunately, one was not available due to the fact that I was in a place called the Isle of Wight, which... if you've not been, is, as the name suggests. They are delivering on being an island of white people to the extent I think is where they make them. Just assembling them in factories with Mumford & Sons blaring out over the PA system so everyone comes out that extra nice crusty white. So I went to see a white doctor on the Isle of Wight who did a white x-ray on my brown hand and said, yeah, that finger is broken. It turns out the medical professional knows more than the man who drank his way to a joint honours degree in history and English literature. But then she said this, listen, when I say it's broken, that's actually a misnomer. What I mean is it's dislocated. Now, this is a good thing because it means it's an easier fix. All I have to do is pull it out and pop it back in again. I said, fantastic, Doc, let's get this show on the road. I need to be back on the set of this TV show. The people need entertainment. And she said, do you want any gas or air? And I said, why? I'm not a fucking prego. Because that's the thing about toxic masculinity. It flares up sometimes for no reason. It's like athlete's foot of the very soul. And she said, do you want any pain medication? And I said, let me summarise the events of the last 3 days for you, Doc. I broke my finger and then have just been walking around like this the whole time without even realising it was broken. What does that tell you? It tells you I've got a very high pain threshold. And then I fainted. I fainted... To be clear, not when she pulled on my finger, when she touched my hand, the thought of her pulling on my finger caused my brain to go into immediate shutdown mode. I pass out on the floor of A&E in the Isle of Wight, and then I learned something about myself. I learned that I'm arrogant on a subconscious level. I know that I'm arrogant on a conscious level. Horrible to understand, it extends to my subconscious, as I found out when I attempted to style out a faint as soon as I regained consciousness. She did this. Mr. Kumar, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Kumar. And the first thing I said was, may I help you? As if she had inconvenienced me. So then by this point, I'd landed on the finger and broken it even worse, so I had to come home and get it operated on. And now it bends like this, but apart from that, it's absolutely fine. Now, listen, this is supposed to be where this bit of the fucking show ends. Then, on the 1st of October last year, in the middle of the UK leg of this tour, something happened. I was back playing in my regular game of Tuesday football, and I was running back into my position. I'm a defender. I'm a defender. I was running back into my position, and out of the corner of this eye, I can see that my friend is about to take a shot. I think he hasn't seen me. I could just spin my body this way, stick this foot out, and knock the ball out of his path and prevent him from taking the shot. Now, I am correct about all of these things. I spin this way, stick this foot out, knock the ball out of his path, prevent him from taking the shot. Here's what I don't prevent him from doing, starting to take the shot. This man swings into the space where he thought the ball was and crashes studs first into the top of my foot. And all I can think in that moment is, I don't think that is bruised. And I'm only telling you this, Hackney, because I consider this story to be one of great personal growth. Because what did I do? I immediately went to hospital. I went to hospital and had an x-ray done on my foot, and the doctor came out and said, yeah, you've broken your toe. Now, when I say you've broken your toe, that's actually a misnomer. What I mean is you've dislocated your toe. Now, this is a good thing because it means it's an easier fix. All I have to do is pull it out and pop it back in again. And then she said, do you want any pain medication? And I said, I want every piece of pain medication you have in this hospital. Here's what I want you to do. Get all of it, put it on a table, split it in half. Take the first half, shove it down my throat. Take the second half, ram it up my arse. While we wait for those two groups to meet in the middle, I want you to inject me full of whatever killed Michael Jackson. She said, lidocaine will suffice. She injects my foot with lidocaine, it goes numb. She pulls it out. Pops it back in again. And then I had to wrap my foot in a bandage, and for the next month, I had to do shows sat on that stool, thus failing to fulfill 50% of my job description as a stand-up comedian. But then after that, it was absolutely fine. And initially, I was reluctant to tell either of these stories on stage, right? Because it doesn't feel consistent with my personal brand. This is not how you, my audience, the fuming, disgruntled leftists, want me to have injured my neck, hand, and foot, is it? You want me to have injured my neck because I was nodding too vigorously at a Naomi Klein op-ed piece? You want me to have injured my hand and foot because I was banging on the table while stamping on the floor and shouting, injustice is bad! But then I had to think about it, and I realised nothing other than these two stories could be more central to the core of my personal brand, because ultimately, a summary of both is that I hurt myself quite badly by turning too enthusiastically to the left.